He's like my slightly older brother.
Which one? Me?
You.
I'm much older. You know that.
How did you meet?
Oh my God! Well, we go way back when Seventh Avenue was really called Seventh Avenue, and I actually used Bethann as a model. She was a supercharger. She was like the model that ran down the runway, and you didn't forget her ever. I've watched her career over the years, and I have to say to both of you, this was a terrific film. Really terrific film. It captures the essence of what my life has been, and that's very important. And I'm going to make a plug for myself. Do you mind? My memoir is out this week, so it's called Uncross Your Legs, and it's all about what your life is about. So it's a memory lane thing for me, and we have a small business, tiny, and yet our reach is long, and our reach is long because of people like Bethann.
Thank you.
So do you have questions for us?
Am I leading this? Well, I'll be. Bethann.
I can keep asking questions if you want.
Questions from Bethann.
Well, this is the first time we're doing this via Zoom, but
Well, I didn't realize we were going to have questions for Bethann, but I wanted to ask you, Bethann. Okay.
Yes.
I'll just preface this by saying when I first started, I used the first black model in a showroom, and I lost every Southern account that I had, including Montalvo's.
Who was your model?
Renee Hunter. Renee Hunter is still alive. She's a Shinnecock Indian. She's still around. I took her to all the way to Japan with me. She rocked the whole Asian continent. She runs around the Shinnecock Indian Reservation now, but she was one of my first models. And
No, there were numerous amount of girls like that at her time. Right before her and during her time, there were brown girls at that time.
there were. Well, you know, I also had a very great assistant, a Spanish assistant, and when I hired her, she refused to fit on her. She refused. How the hell am I going to fit on somebody with an ass so big? That's what she would say to me. You got an ass so big, you can't do that. And I would say, well, you'll just adjust. You will just adjust. But it was such a different time. Remember Billy Blair?
Yeah, yes, of course.
Well,
It was during my time.
that was your time. There was
I came along before her, but yes, she came on right after me.
Well, these were the famous. I mean, the film is so extraordinary because you've got Stephen Burrows, the genius of Stephen Burrows, Willie Smith, all the great designers. They were pioneers, Bethann. What other designers? What was the first black designer that you remember? I mean, that made a difference.
Arthur McGee, John Hagen, Scott Barry. There were a lot. I mean, so many people think that there weren't, and they were suppressed, but there were a lot, especially during the 70s.
There were, Eric Gaskins. Remember Eric Gaskins? I mean, there were some marvelous black designers.
Yeah.
I'm on the board of the CFDA with Bethann. We have watched the change a long time.
Yes, of course, absolutely.
And the other day, we held hands at a memorial service for Ivan Bart, who was in this film.
Yes.
A very good friend of mine, and a good friend of Bethann's.
Yes.
You want to ask Bethann a question?
Yes, we love to hear questions from the audience. Please, over there.
How her relationship with her dad went after.
The microphone is coming your
That
way.
makes sense.
Well, she's going to ask about your dad. Okay.
Yes, I wanted to ask you about your relationship with your dad. How that.
Oh, that's great. I love the mic is much better. I can hear things so clearly.
Oh, good.
No, my father was great. I said something in the film I always felt was a little awkward because I didn't express it properly. I let it be said that my father, he was very strict. It wasn't my father. I said this to Frederic after the film was finished. It was really my father's wife. She was very strict. But my relationship with him, yes, I was with him until he passed.
The other things, in the film, other than the fact that your profile is very good, you look into the camera better than anybody that I know. There's a whole. It was extraordinary seeing you as a young person, you as a young model, a middle-aged model, growing up into this old seer that you are. What do you make out of this? Where are we today? What do you feel about today? Are you
in reference to the model industry or the fashion?
In reference to the world and how you feel about what you've done.
Well, as I said before, I never thought I had much of a story until Frederic and I made this film. I know that I was so busy just doing the work, I didn't think much of it in that way. But when I look at the world and I think about what's happened in the industry of model industry and designers in the fashion industry, then I think that, look, it's integrated. If you want to talk about racial diversity, for sure it's integrated. If you want to talk about the politics and the world problems, that's a whole nother subject. That I can talk about as well. But as far as the industry that, designers and models, right now, they've really reached deeply into West Africa, so the girls are very dark, the boys are very dark. But the good thing that it proved is that people of color and models of color can wear, can be in the winter and winter and fall collections. Because at one point, they always thought that, well, it's good for a resort, it's good for spring, and the girls and boys of color is much more exotic, quote unquote. But that went away a long time ago, but now it's really very integrated.
I'm going to ask you a question I've always wanted to ask you and never had a chance to. Since you were in Paris at that big fashion show, your models, Stephen's models were black.
No. Let's be clear.
Yeah, that's what I want to be.
Stephen has always been very integrated. Stephen never even thought himself as a black designer. Stephen's models were black, white, whatever was on the stage. Nobody got a chance. The only thing that happened with Versailles is that each designer had to select 3 girls. Had to select girls.
That's what I wanted to know.
Out of a pool of girls, and each model had to have 3 designers that wanted them. That's how we all got there. But there were no specific,
Okay.
Halston had his girls, Stephen had his girls, but they were all still girls that were mixed.
Well, now you answered my question. I never understood that. And Annie Klein had her own, and Oscar had his own.
Anne had her own, but she also had girls that she approved, but they were mixed because we had a big pool.
I see.
There was white girls, black girls, things like that.
Can you tell everybody how the feeling must have been on that stage when all of Paris went?
I can never tell you. I know I was scared to death. I knew that when I hit that stage, because the difference with me is that I had a full-time job. I always had a full-time job when I modeled. I never was one of the girls who could afford. I was only a runway model, but still I had a full-time job. I was Stephen's I was his assistant. So I had to look out for them. And then also I had to look out for Anne Klein because she needed my help a lot. So I had to pay attention to the behind the stage a lot, but when I went down on that runway, it was, I was very, very, I was determined for us to win. And that was the moment they threw the programs up in the air when I went down.
I just want to tell you.
This is going to turn, I just want you to know, it's going to turn to the He and I show,
No. I don't know. I didn't know I was supposed to ask you questions. I just found that out today. Anybody else have questions for her?
Yes, other questions here?
Let's not lose the point here. This is a great human being who put a purpose that the humans need before her own life. And all this other talk is nonsense. This is a great woman we're looking at here.
Bravo.
And she deserves our appreciation.
Thank you.
That's what this is about.
You hear that? Great.
I heard it clearly, yes.
That's
Thank you
true.
so much.
And yeah, actually, I must say, even as a filmmaker, Bethann was an incredible partner. I didn't, it was kind of a gamble to ask Bethann to co-direct because you never know if the subject is going to try to control the story or something. But I knew I wasn't asking anyone. I was asking Bethann Hardison, and I knew her for almost like 10 years before that. Maybe not 6 years before we started. And we had done a short film together, and so I knew that she took things very seriously, as you can see in the film. Like she's not about the the fluff or anything. She goes deep, and so I wanted to go deep for this film, and that's why I felt like, okay, let's try this new way of doing something. And Bethann didn't disappoint at all. Beyond that,
And you accomplished it.
yes, please, over there.
How can the rest of the world see the film? What are your plans?
Good question. So the film had a theatrical release in September, and we've been picked up out of Sundance by Magnolia Pictures, which was amazing because they're an amazing distributor. And now we're on VOD, which means that anyone can buy it, rent it at home, iTunes, Prime, or wherever you get your movies. So spread the word. It's available.
Anybody who's seen it in the industry has been very taken with it. Very, very, very much so. It's really a fine film.
Yes, please hear.
Just an impressive film about a very incredible person. And I had a couple of comments. The music is beautiful. Beautiful.
Yes,
Like every
yes. Very much so.
scene, the music is just right. Like,
I agree.
So glad you said that.
I had a question for Bethann, which is that you made a point to say that a couple of times that you're not ambitious, but you have objectives. And I really, could you say more about that?
Yes, it's very interesting you brought that up. And I love that everyone, when they watch the film, when we do Q&As, how people remember all the quotes and the things that I say.
Right.
But I do say, it was questioned when we were in the theater about, what do you mean? What's the difference between not being ambitious and having goals? Well, for me, ambition is something you set out, you really set out to do things. I mean, when it comes down to this thing that I was able to achieve in regards to the industry, that was because it was right at my feet. It was right, something I had no choice, and I had people like my Naomi calling me, you have to do this, Ma, come. I was like the only one who could do this. So it didn't, as an example, it doesn't come out of a feeling of ambition. It comes out of a feeling of a duty. Like, when you see dust on your table and you just gotta dust it off, or you see your house needing to be organized. Ambition to me is something where you lay and you think and you really desire to achieve something. That doesn't happen. I'd rather go lay down in a hammock, or I'd rather just, I'd rather go dancing. I mean, I don't sit and have these plans, these goals, but these ambitions. But there are times that I do sit and say, like now at this age of my life, that the film is finished, I have to finish the book. I do think about how I want to leave the earth, where I would like to leave it. So yes, I would like to set up a Bethann Hardison Foundation, because there's some young people in my life who are already doing that. Yes, I would like to continue with the designers of the community of designers that I've put together since 2018, Young Brands. I'd like to always be able to do things like that. And I don't think it comes out of ambition. I think it comes out of a sense of duty.
Wonderful.
And
Bravo.
And even and Bethann doesn't say something, but sometimes I say it for her. She's the hardest worker that I know. Like right now, we're promoting the film, and we're really trying to get as many people to see it as possible. And Bethann is up writing emails like night and day, just like just trying to really just activate. When I give her a task, she runs with it, and it's just like it's maybe not ambition, but it's a sense of responsibility.
Any other questions? Yeah.
How is the book going?
How is the book
She wants to
going?
know how your book is going.
That's the favorite question of all time. Yes, everyone wants to know, so what's the film, and I started doing I got the book deal right when we had started the film, but the film really took precedent, and I at some point, I was doing both at the same time, and then I just had to stop. The good news is that my agent has made sure that my publisher understands it, but the good news, as you asked that question also, is that this film has seemed to set up the book without it being intentional. So many people are, like, when is the book coming out? I can't wait to read that book. I said, well, it's not like the film. Oh, I don't know, no. They're very excited. So I think what's been nice is the publisher is still very excited. And we pushed the date back of when I have to finish. Because they have more than half of the book. I just have to finish it.
That's great.
So let's just say 2025 to answer your question. That's what they're
Good. Bravo.
Another question? Oh, there in the back.
I just want to thank you, Bethann and Frederic, for making this film. It's May Mougin, Bethann, and you capture.
Oh, yay!
You
I'm
capture.
so sorry. I'm sorry. Wait, hold on. These are the nice surprises of doing these festivals or doing these things, and people from out of like woodwork
That's great.
come and show up. Hello, May. Hello.
But I want to thank you, Frederic, both of you, for capturing the life we all lived at that time. And it was before the fax machine. And I also had the honor of working with Bethann at the agency. But where did you two meet to make your first short film? And how did you connect? Because she's such a spiritual person. Who drew who to whom?
That's a good question.
Good
I don't know about that, but we met in 2014 when Bethann was getting the CFDA award, which you see in the film. And what you don't see in the film is that before she came on stage, or before Naomi came on stage, there was a little film, 3-minute film that was introducing Bethann, and they asked me to direct it. A producer came to see me because I had a film out that was on Dior, and the producer had liked it and thought I would be good. And that's how we met. And I didn't know who Bethann was, but we met very quickly the next day, and I was completely taken. I was like, wow, who is this person? And then we decided to shoot, in the next couple of weeks, like we shot. And we shot much more than we needed for 3 minutes. We shot like 5 hours of interview with Bethann, and it just went on. And then we kept the conversation going after that.
Bravo.
Yeah, and it was more the conversation of like, I was working on another project, and I would, he and I would talk, and I just loved his film so much. I loved the Dior and I film. I loved The Eye Has to Travel about Mrs. Breland. And my film was really about something else, another subject about the industry, but not focused on me. And so when I actually had the, being told by others, yeah, that's great you're working on that film about the industry, but someone needs to do a film on you. I heard that twice, and I always resisted that idea. But then when I knew the problem I would have making the other film, in some way, I thought it would be easier if the film was about me. So when I was having problems finished working out certain things, like my grant money that was given to me by Ford Foundation and different things, I would call Frederic for different little ads. So then I no longer was with my the director that I was working with, and I was on my own, and I was really insecure about that. Like, how do I do this on my own? So I would always call Frederic for little tidbits and stuff, and he told me when I said, I got to go with this, he said, okay, let me do it, I'm going to help you. And then when he decided to be the one to help me, he then said, I would like to do your film. He had just finished the Holston film, and he said, but I need you to agree to co-direct it with me. And I said, smart kid.
She didn't say that.
Right there in front. This gentleman here, right in front.
Yeah.
Right in front. Look.
Oh,
Yeah.
for another question. Oh, yeah, right.
What do you think can prevent Black-owned brands from becoming faddish? Because you see a lot of them rise to greatness and then they just fade off. Is it a lack of marketing to multi-cultures? what do you think could be done differently for the longevity so that they become these long-standing household names like some of the other brands that you're associated with?
Good question.
Okay, I need to answer that. I really thank you so much for saying that. But I've been staring at you the whole time because your demeanor reminds me of Kadeem. But I just want to say, that's a very good question because white brands, that happens to white brands, Latin brands.
Right.
I haven't seen it yet happen to Asian brands, but at the end of the day, I want you to know that happens to a lot of brands. That, you know, they can build up and be great, and then all of a sudden they disappear. It's an extraordinary business that we live in, the garment business, the apparel business, and now, which is called so famously the fashion business. It's very competitive, and you really need to be part of, really, I really do think a lot of it is luck, besides the fact that you have to be smart. You have to really run your own race. Don't decide, I tell my designers, because I had gathered a bunch of designers that were of color. Stop saying that you're a black designer. You're not a black designer. You're a designer. Compete. Stop with the, I can't stand the black thing, part of expression. But the fact of it is that's very important to be independent and run. That race is ready for anyone to have. So it does require money, it does require stamina, it does require having great knowledge of the industry. And that's why it's so important for, I think, for a lot of young designers who want to design to go work with someone else first. And then they can learn a lot of someone else's dime, as I would say. And then eventually, yes, Stan is someone who's been around a long time, talking about closing your legs. So what's the name of the book?
Uncross your legs. Uncross your legs. You know, that's what they in a fashion show. What happens is the people in the front row have their legs crossed, and usually the photographers at the end of the runway scream, "Uncross your fucking legs," so that they get it clear.
So they get the shot.
Yeah.
So they can get the shot. That's exactly true. But that's pretty much. I'm glad you asked that question.
It's a great question.
Because in the end of the day, I think there's one young man out there right now that I'm going to put my money on.
Which one?
I mean, Stephen Burrows is someone that we will always all remember. He'll always get accolades because of how he ran his own race. He never looked at the other guys. He never did. But I think Christopher John Rogers has a great chance.
Absolutely. Christopher John Rogers, remember that name, everybody. Very important, very important. And that's a super guy. Woo.
Yeah.
Is there another question in the audience? Yes, please. Over there.
I'm in awe of your life, your achievements, and how the filmmakers were able to bring that to life, including you. What was one of your moments in your life that you were proud of? Like, okay, this is one thing I can look back and I achieved.
Oh,
well, that's interesting.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I think there was something else I thought of the other day. But one of the things I'm glad that I did do, even though I didn't want to do it, is have the model agency. And one other thing that I think about, because I didn't want to have the model agency, and that was another thing they pushed me to do and made me do, and Bonnie found the money to get us started. But the idea that I was able to do it, always looking with my I'm telling you, this is where ambition is a perfect example. Always with my head looking out the window, when can I get out of this? From the time I started till the time I ended, but I lasted 13 years successfully. That I'm proud of. I'm also proud of having the Black Girls Coalition and helping young girls who were of color, who were models, to learn to work together, and for women in general to learn to work together, but to do it for a greater cause within themselves. And I watched them learn. The second I call wave of the Black Girls Coalition is more recent. And these girls really stayed connected. I introduced them all together. We go out to dinner, and they became supportive to themselves. And I think the thing that I really appreciate about this industry also is having that one moment, like now when I look back at Versailles, how I walked down that stage and how the programs went up in the air. If I look back, because when we got away from there, we were just so like, done. We never thought about it again. But when you're being reminded of it now, 50 years later, how it was, what it was, that was an extraordinary moment. Because we knew then we had won.
It was the 50th anniversary last week.
Last week, that's right.
Yes.
28th.
That's right. And very few people left it, remember it.
Well, they didn't know about it until the Metropolitan Museum put a luncheon together to have the girls of color, which were 10 girls, to get cited and, give a key of the city or some citation from New York. That's when everybody in the industry learned about it, because many people didn't know about it. So they put this big luncheon together and that's how people learned.
Very true.
Next question, please.
I think we're questioned out.
Applause.
Is that it?
Thank you
We
very
do it?
much. Thank you.
Please just say goodbye to May Mojan, because it's nice to know, I can't see her, but I'm so happy to get
She's back in the back there. She's
And you-
saying goodbye.
And your friend Rosemary Peck was here too.